Pastor's Wife Designs, and I am super excited to be sharing with you yet another card in my Chicken Chit-Chat series. And this is the card that we are going to make today. This little chicken is trying to escape from her chicken coop. I don't blame her. I wouldn't want to be cooped up either. So anyway, that is the card we're going to be making today. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started on this card. We're going to have a lot of fun with this card today. The things that you're going to need to make this card is, of course, our stamp set, Hey Chick, which is, again, one of my favorites, and we're going to be using the crazy one that I love so much. And then we will also be using Have a Happy Day and creating just a cute little like pennant. So that is the stamp set that we're going to be using, and then we will be using the embossing folders. I'm going to use the wood grain one and the hexagon embossing folder, and they look like this. This is the hexagon one, and then of course the wood grain. So that is the main things that we're going to be using. You will want also some basic gray archival ink, the soft suede ink, and basic black for our stamping and sponging. You will need a sponge. I have cut mine in quarters, or sixths, excuse me. I've cut mine in sixths and put a binder clip on them for better use. I also have a blender pen that we're going to be using. I have some white baker's twine. I have our burlap ribbon that we will be using, and our watercolor pencils. They are such a favorite of mine right now, and so we'll be using those. You will also need a piece of crumb cake, which is measured at 5.5 by 4 1/4. You will want some very vanilla cardstock. This is cut at 11 by 4 1/4 inches, and then it is scored at 5.5, and then you'll just fold it. It'll be a long ways, and let's go ahead and just do that while we've got it there. I'm going to use my bone folder to get a nice crease. Set that aside. You will also want a piece of Whisper White, and I use the heavy cardstock. I just like the feel of it a little bit better, and when I'm using the watercolor pencils and water or blender pens, it holds up a little better. You could also use the watercolor paper. This is 2 inches by 3 inches, and that is what we will be stamping on. Go ahead and get your piece of Whisper White cardstock and your stamp, the chicken stamp, and go ahead and use the basic black ink. Ink your stamp up really well so you get a good image, and go ahead and just give her a good press and hold it down for just a second so that the paper will suck the ink off of your image, or your stamp, I guess I should say. And then that is all you need your black for. I get a small piece of very vanilla. I have cut this at 2 inches by 3/4 inch, and I am going to stamp my sentiment on it, and I want to stamp the Have a Happy Day. I'm going to stamp this over to the side because I want to make this like a little banner or a pennant, I guess more like a pennant than a banner. Let's go ahead and just give this a little trim, and I'm going to come in about right there. You can see where I came into the side. I'm going to do the same thing from the bottom. And now, while I have this, I am going to get my sponge that I told you about a little bit ago. I'm going to ink it up in my soft suede, and then I want to just go around all of my edges. Now you want to get your piece of crumb cake that is cut at the 5.5 by 4 1/4, and you want to get your trimmer, and we are going to cut an edge of 1/2 inch, and you're going to leave an opening. You can cut this after you have embossed it, but I found that it's actually easier to cut before it's embossed. So is what I do is I come in here and line this up on my trimmer, and I want to have a 1/2 inch. So when I come in, I'm going to lay that down, and I know that that's at a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch because my point, I don't know if you can see this. Let me slide this up a little bit just to give you an idea. The point of my blade will cut at so I've got this so I can set it at a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, and then I can run it down and I can see where my other 1/2 inch mark is. And I'm going to do that all the way around. Okay, so this is what you've ended up with, and you are going to run this through your Big Shot using the wood grain embossing folder, and you just set it in there like that, and then you're going to run it through your Big, and this is what we've ended up with. Okay, while you have your Big Shot out, let's go ahead and work smarter, not harder. We will use a piece of vellum that is cut at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, just a nice piece of vellum. We're going to put that into the hexagon embossing folder and give it a run through the Big Shot as well. That way we have all of our embossing done. All right, so we have all of our embossing done, and you can see how this is embossed and kind of looks truly like chicken wire. It might be a little hard to see, but this is going to be our chicken wire. So we're going to go ahead and put that down and get out our basic gray ink and another sponge. And you want to have this so that the negative side is down, or is up, and the puffy side is down, because I want this to look like wire. And you will take your sponge and just ink it up in your basic gray, and then run it over your vellum. And you see how we're getting some, it looks like metal going across it, across the vellum, and you're just going to go ahead and go clear across it and do that. That is finished, and it's dark in some spots, but I want it that way on purpose. It just adds some depth and dimension. Now we are going to do the very same thing to our piece that we just cut out and embossed with the wood grain, and I want to turn that over so you use whatever side you want. And you will use your soft suede and sponge it the same way we did around the pennant or on top of the vellum. You see how it's starting to pop, and you can see the dimension. That's what you want. Okay, you can see how we've got that done, and it's going to be ready. I'm just going to set it aside for a second as well, and I'm going to pull my chicken over here, who I just love, and get her colored. And I recommend you just use whatever color pencils you want to. I do want to point out, I love how our watercolor pencils all have this the colors at the end, and that makes them a lot easier to see and see what you're working with. I want her to be, I'm going to use some yellows, some blue. I think I want the Calypso Coral. Of course, the orange for her beak and legs. And maybe a darker blue as well. And then I am just going to go ahead and start coloring her. And get some orange on her beak and her feet and legs. And just get her all colored in. And you can always come back in and add layer, but remember, you can't take color away very easily. So, you know, it's easier to come in and color lightly, and then you can come back in later for more dark. See what I mean? Like along this edge, I'm going to go darker to give her some contrast. All right, I have my coloring done, and now is what I want to do is I want to bring in my blender and go ahead and just blend my coloring so that it doesn't look like I've got a bunch of pencil marks. and also just to get some nice shading and that sort of thing. Remember, when you're done with the color, to just color off on your scrap paper so that it doesn't bleed or muddy up your other color. All right, and there my chicken is colored, and I'm going to set that aside. While I have this out, I will go ahead and I'm going to use my corner rounder and round my edges. I just want it to have a little softer look. Okay, now we are ready to actually build our card. So you want to get your chicken coop and your wood frame, and you want to put some fast fuse on it, and then you're going to mount that onto the vellum. All right, I've got my fast fuse on that, and I'm going to set my vellum down, and then I'm going to get this mounted on here and just line all my edges up nicely. All right, so there is our frame for our card, or for our vellum. It makes it look like a chicken coop. Now we're going to go back and get our card base, the very vanilla, and I'm going to just kind of set this on here because I want to see about where I want my chicken to be in the coop. So I'm going to put her behind this and just determine about where I want her. I think I want her to come up a little bit more and over, so you can kind of see through here where I've got that. So I'm just going to go ahead and lift this off for a moment, keep my eyeball on about where I want that, and then I'm going to put some fast fuse on her as well so I can adhere her down. All right. Now it's about where I wanted her, so she's going to go right there, and I want to set this down again, just make sure it's about where I want, and I'm just going to take a pencil and mark where her head is with an X. Now go ahead and get a piece of your foam or something like that that works for you. Turn this over, and you see where my X is. I'm going to take my bone folder here, and I'm actually going to just pop through. The one thing about the vellum is it kind of tears really nice. I know that sounds kind of weird, but for what we want it to do, and just give it a nice little pop, kind of around in a square. Now I'm going to just take my fingers and literally kind of tear it up and through. It's not going to matter because it's going to look like a chicken pecked her way through. And then kind of curl my vellum back a little bit, and I may even kind of come over on the side here and give it a little bit of a press so that I'm not fighting it. All right. Now again, I want to put some fast fuse on these edges, and I'm going to just set that aside for a second. Now we have, I told you we were going to use the burlap ribbon. You want to cut a piece of the burlap ribbon about, let's say 3 inches. That should be plenty. So I'm going to just give that a cut. Then I'm going to come down the side of it here and cut off one of the bindings. Then I'm going to take my paper piercer and just pull these fibers out. And the idea, and then these just slide off really nicely. So I want it to look a little bit like she's standing on some straw. There's straw inside of her coop. You don't see it super well through there, but there is, through the vellum, but there is the, image of it poking through. And so I'm just going to run some fast fuse right there and kind of You see, just crisscross it so it looks like I said, straw. All right, now for the fun, we're going to put her in her coop. Just line this up at the bottom of your card face and your edges. And you can see where the straw is kind of poking through. I want to tear that just a little bit more to show her off a little bit more. Okay, so get this to where you like it and get it torn and peeled down, and then kind of give it a nice little press so that it does look like she's the one that pecked through. Next thing that we want to do is we want to tie a bow with our baker's twine. So we're going to take this and wrap it around the top of the card. So I'm going to slide it up inside. Well, actually I'm not. I'm going to do this and just give it a few wraps, maybe like 4. You can do as many or as little as you want. It's completely up to you. Again, it's your card. Go ahead and give it a nice little tie. You're going to tie a bow in it. All right, there's our bow. And finally, we want to put our Have a Happy Day banner on. I'm just going to use dimensionals, and I'll probably just use 2 of them. Okay, we're going to put this on here. I'm going to put it about right there. Okay, and there we have it, our happy little chicken having a happy day. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you make this card, but more than that, I hope you send it to somebody so that they too can have a happy day. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Brenda with My Pastor's Wife Designs.